Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OwlScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OwlScoop.com, the authority on Temple athletics. I'm your host, OwlScoop.com editor John DiCarlo. We have a mostly full house this week. Colin Schofield and Ryan Mack are with us. Colin, you're going to have to do your best to channel Kyle. You as well, Ryan. But later on, we're going to hear from a very special guest. If loyal OwlScoop subscribers might remember the wise words of Greg Paone. He's going to be with us later on. He works now with the American Cancer Society. He's going to be talking about their involvement with the Big Five Classic this weekend. Kyle is in Disney World with his family. He's going to say I'm doxing him, but I'm sure they'll put something on social media at some point. So we have a really, really fun show for you guys this week. We'll talk to you about a Temple 2026 recruiting class is currently ranked second in the American Conference and 68th nationally by On3 and Rivals. Keeler and his staff signed 33 players Wednesday. They added a 34th. Well, I don't know if he's actually signed yet, but they got another verbal commitment today that we'll get to in a little bit. So yesterday was a busy day on National Signing Day. We got close to an hour with KC and his general manager, Clayton Barnes, to talk about the players in the class. So we have some great stuff and insight to pass along about how they're constructing the roster. They talked Wednesday about how they approach signing players to revenue share contracts, multi-year contracts. KC talked about specific rev share fundraising goals. And KC said something noteworthy at the end of his press conference that should make Temple fans feel pretty good as long as the program continues to trend in the right direction. So we'll have all of that for you. We'll tell you a little bit. It's not going to be a super basketball heavy episode, but we will tell you why the Temple men's and women's basketball teams are not going to be playing for Big Five titles this weekend, and why they're both really going to have to essentially win their conference tournaments at this point to be playing in the NCAA tournament in March, and why they both have a lot of work to do before they even get to that point. So we'll have that for you. Again, we'll hear from Greg Paone later on. Again, a former OwlScoop reporter, a Temple grad, a former web producer at NBC Sports Philadelphia. So again, Greg is now the director of regional integrated marketing at the American Cancer Society. So Greg's going to be talking to us about the work they're doing, how it's tied to this weekend's Big Five Classic down at the Xfinity Mobile Arena, how Temple's involved, how the other schools are involved. And we're going to have a special guest in the mailbag to personally answer one of our mailbag questions as well. So a lot of cool stuff ahead. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. We'll continue to remind you that now is the perfect time, especially now, to join OwlScoop and get access to all the information that we're going to be bringing to you, especially with all of our signing day content. We're going to have several stories to roll out over the next few days about some of the players that have signed in this 2026 class. So we have a lot of good stuff coming your way. I get it. Both basketball teams not bringing you a whole lot of joy right now. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. But you've got a really good recruiting class to read about. So we want to make sure that it is worth your money. Join OwlScoop now for $1 for your first week and enjoy a complimentary year of The Athletic included with your membership. That's a heck of a deal to take advantage of. So just go to the website. You'll see the little spot up top. Click, subscribe, enjoy the content the rest of the way. We'll make sure, as I said, that it is worth your money. All right, as we said, Temple signed the number 2 class in the American per Rivals and On3. Their 33-player class, soon to be a 34-player class, is also ranked again 68th nationally. Of those 33 players, 21 are expected to be early enrollees next month. They signed 3 quarterbacks, with St. Joe Montvale quarterback Lamar Best being a late surprise in the mix. They kept together that core of players that committed in June, including their highest-rated recruit and defensive lineman, Jude Okoleke, who chose Temple over Syracuse. That was kind of a somewhat familiar story with this class. So we have a few pieces of audio to share with you a little bit later from Keeler and Clayton Barnes. Again, they talked to us for almost an hour yesterday over at Berg-Olson Hall. You can listen to the full interview on OwlScoop.com from our signing day story yesterday. So some of the takeaways, again, we could probably talk for 2 or 3 hours about this class and about signing day. We don't have that type of time, but again, we'll have a lot of stuff coming up here. Again, they did get word of another commitment this morning in DeMonte Green, a wide receiver from Midwestern State University. He's originally from Dallas. He had 58 catches for 738 yards and 7 touchdowns this season at the Division II level. He has 2 years of eligibility left. We'll hopefully be able to catch up with him for a story at some point. So again, hasn't signed yet. Not one of the players that they talked about yesterday, but if we are to take DeMonte Green at his word, he should be signing soon, or he's at least committed. As I said earlier, they beat some of the programs they were supposed to beat and aspire to beat for recruits. So a lot of this class, a lot of it came together in June, and they were able to keep a lot of it together. A guy like Jude Okaleke, who was their highest-rated recruit, chose them over a committable offer from Syracuse. So did Antoine Rogers from Salem High School. They got a class of 5 offensive linemen that they're excited about. One of those guys, and we'll start splicing in some audio here, Karon Spencer. I had a chance to catch up with him earlier this week. One of the 5 offensive linemen that they signed yesterday plays at Our Lady of Good Counsel High School in Maryland, former USF recruit. You can actually go to OwlScoop.com right now and hear our entire conversation. He knew that there was going to be a coaching change. He decommitted, and you'll hear him here talk about how, his phone kind of blew up when he decommitted. And I said, how did Temple break through? If you had other offers, if you had some ACC offers, if you had some interest, why did Temple break through here? And so you'll hear him here talk about the relationship with Al Johnson, Temple's offensive line coach, and why he kept saying a few times in our conversation he was very genuine. So here's a clip from our conversation, him talking about why Temple was actually kind of able to break through, get him on campus for an official visit. He came in for the Tulane for the Tulane game. So I'll play this clip for you. He's a guy, you won't hear this in this specific clip, but I think he kind of sounds like Deion Dawkins. I am not promising that he's going to play like Deion Dawkins. That would be those would be big shoes to fill. But I think he kind of sounds like him. But he mentions in our conversation later on that he looks up to Deion. But here's part of my conversation with Karon Spencer, and then we'll, of course, have a ton more for you on the other side. How did Temple kind of break through? Like, what if you had to explain that process to people? What's that like when you post that on social media? Did you all of a sudden, did your phone blow up with a bunch of coaches reaching out?
Yeah, my phone definitely did blow up after I posted that. I had multiple coaches in different divisions like ACC, maybe a couple words in Big Ten, stuff like that. But it was just, my phone started flooding. But what separated Temple from everybody else, it was just the way they kept everything 100 when we was talking. Like, everything was genuine. Like, I keep bringing up the word genuine. Everything was just 100%. And they were very understanding throughout the process. They allowed me to go at my pace. They weren't rushing anything. And they were just like, we want you here. We wouldn't take you for another guy. And just that confirmation that I was one, you got to go where you wanted. So it's like that also kind of leaned into my decision as well. And I just know it's a great college for what I'm trying to do, on and off the field. And on the field is somewhere I know I can develop as a player.
All right, more on this class. They got 2 of the better players in the city, in Ash Roberts and Ian Stead from Roman Catholic High School, in addition to their friend, their fellow teammate, and offensive lineman Khalif McNear. He's a preferred walk-on. You won't see him mentioned in the Wednesday signing day class, but a guy that could potentially contribute at some point. Locally, also getting players like Dylan Abram from Bonner, R.J. Blunt from Pennsauken, Deron Harris from Chester, other good local gets for them. Almost 80% of this class is from what they would consider to be that regional footprint in the DMV, the northeast part of the country. They took 3 quarterbacks, as I mentioned before. Brady Palmer is an interesting story, a guy who, had he stayed put at his high school just outside of Chicago, probably could have done well, went down to St. Thomas Aquinas and didn't end up getting the starting job there, missed a little bit of time during the season. They also signed Brody Norman from North Carolina. Both those guys committed back in June. And then, as I said earlier, they got a commitment this week from Lamar Best from St. Joe Montvale. They just knocked off Don Bosco Prep for the NJSIAA non-public Group A state title. Here's Clayton Barnes talking about taking 3 quarterbacks.
Obviously, signed 3 quarterbacks. It's unique. We did graduate 3 senior quarterbacks this year, so we knew there's opportunity to bring guys into the room. Obviously, we can't be entirely young rooms. We'll be looking for older guys to come in and compete for the starting job. But you look at the 3 that we brought in, a lot of talented kids. Brody and Brady both actually came on the visit together and both committed from that visit. Brody is a guy that's true dual threat, extremely athletic. Reminds us a lot of a kid named Eric Schmid we had at Sam Houston who won the national championship for us. A lot of similarities there as far as just dynamicism. And then Brady's a kid that's just very impressive. You look at him walk in the room and say, okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. And he's had a great junior season up in Illinois. So he's a guy that we loved his junior tape and got him evaluated off of that. And then we always kept tabs on Lamar Best as a guy who's right in our backyard. Had a great senior season, just won the state championship for them. Draw some PJ Walker comparisons, which when you're wearing Temple uniform is not a bad thing. So when we had the opportunity to bring him on board, we did that as well. So quarterback position is so important. Make sure we get as much talented guys in there as possible, and then kind of let them sort it out from there. So 3 kids, they're all understood that we're taking 3, and we're excited about it. We're not shy of competition, and we're excited to be a part of the program.
So as I mentioned before, too, they also talked about roster construction and revenue share and multi-year contracts. Casey Keeler said that they would have no shot at keeping their best players without signing them to multi-year contracts. They talked about, not specific players, but they talked about having the year-end meetings with players. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I want to kind of pause here. Colin, Ryan, first of all, as I just rifled through all that stuff, how were your Thanksgivings?
You want me to go first?
Oh,
yeah,
Very polite of you to say. Do you want me to go first?
Thank you. I try my best, John. I try my best. My Thanksgiving was pretty good, Didn't really do much, honestly. It's the usual watch parade. Family just kind of chills out.
The Temple Marching Band? The Macy's Day Parade?
My mom was zeroed in on making sure that she saw them on TV. Yeah. You would have she was so excited. I think she had got her phone out. She was really happy for that. Thanksgiving was good. My older brother came down from New York. That was cool to see him and his fiance.
Broadway star, recently engaged. The rest of us are insignificant.
And then Sienna came down for that, so that was really fun. So nice. It was a good Thanksgiving. Nice break.
Colin, did you stuff your turkey with crab cakes?
I did not stuff my turkey with crab cakes. I hate mixing my food, so I'm one of those people at Thanksgiving. I have to make sure
the food literally can't touch.
The food can't touch.
Oh, wow.
I am one of those people.
You got a little bit of OCD or no?
No, it's not OCD. It's just I don't know. I hate my food touching. I hate mixing my foods. It's how I've always been. My mom keeps joking she's gonna get me one of those baby plates where the food has its own little
portion control.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, you're in good shape. By no means am I fat shaming you. That's not what I'm talking about. Portion control, but that's what I think about with the baby plates.
Yeah, no, I know you're not fat shaming me, John. But my Thanksgiving was good. We got our Christmas tree.
You guys go real tree?
Yeah, we got 2 real trees, one for our family room, one for my mom's office, because my mom has 3,000 ornaments, so plenty of ornaments to go around. A little bit of judgment
there. Let's not judge those who love ornaments. I can't wait to Greg Paone is patiently waiting here, and we're gonna bring him into the pod in a little bit. I can't wait to just catch up with him in general and talk Christmas, talk food, everything.
It is officially Christmas time now, so that's exciting.
Oh yeah, it's December 4th.
It's been Christmas time since November 1st.
That's wrong.
It's not even wrong.
We listened to Christmas music on the way back from the Army game. Mm-hmm. Thanks to Ryan.
That's not me.
Saw me get not really super emotional, but I put my hand over my face.
John was contemplating for a little bit when he did. He got really sentimental.
From the Army
we just
game.
passed MetLife Stadium. We were on the Jersey Turnpike, and you were like, "Have you considered listening? If you started listening to Christmas music yet?" I was like, "Not yet." And then you paused, and you were like, "Do you want to start listening to Christmas music?"
November 8th? Yes, it was.
That's a little early over there.
It's not.
We only listen to Adam. You can listen to Turkey Trot and Adam Sandler's Thanksgiving song. After that, it's done. There was a meme I think I shared. It's if people get upset about this stuff, start writing more Thanksgiving music. Anyway, guys, again, 33 players in this class. It will grow. There is obviously the February signing day. They're going to add more players in the portal. Rankings are what they are, but nice of them to be able to hang their hat on the second ranked class in the American. Give me a reason, and I know it's hard to limit it to just one, why you look at this class and say, okay, this was, for Casey Keeler's first real, true, full recruiting cycle as a head coach. Obviously, Clayton Barnes as general manager plays a big part in this. You're walking out of the press conference yesterday. Give me, what was the first thing on your mind about this class that you took away from signing day yesterday?
My first thing about this was honestly just Casey's talked about this since he was hired in like last December, how he wants to go back to recruiting like this like local footprint, that New York down to Virginia is what he's kind of said. And a lot of coaches kind of say that, but it takes you like actually doing that. And he was able to kind of do that a little bit like in the little time he had with like the spring portal, when he was adding kids in last year. But to see him do this with just the high school recruiting in one full year, where it's like, I said this is what I'm going to take it back to. I like kind of taking the program back to its roots of sorts, where he's talked about is like when Temple's had the most success. They've been able to bring kids from Jersey, they've been bring kids from the Philadelphia, Delaware, and stuff like that. And them to have 22 players of that such was really, really like just big to me. It was like, okay, they are going somewhere. Then just winning head-to-head battles with some of these bigger schools, like going against a team like Syracuse that has a South Jersey head coach, and a lot of their coaching staff is from this New Jersey area as well, and be able to go head to head with them and be able to win recruiting battles. And like getting a couple flips from players that coaches were like maybe like they weren't sure if they were going to stay or not, but that's a big deal. I think Lamar Best flip was also a big deal as well. Even though he's coming in from Delaware, that's still big for him. Like seeing that they had a just like question mark on their quarterback position, being like, we are going to try to plug in these holes the best way that they can. And we haven't seen that with past coaching staffs.
Yeah, I think I said to Casey yesterday, like whether people think it's fair or unfair. I mean, the last two coaches, Stan Drayton and Rod Carey, I think certain high school coaches are never going to be happy with whether it's Temple football, Temple basketball. Hey, Temple is the city's school. They should be recruiting our guys. But I think that the program over the past two coaching tenures did give people some ammo in that area. And Casey said, yeah, he just talked about like, hey, they sent me to North Jersey and South Jersey. He talked about Henry Baker's connections. And, for them to beat Syracuse and a couple of recruits, granted, not the best season for Fran Brown. And he recently had to demote Elijah Robinson, who was a legit coaching candidate, was a finalist for the coaching job. I still think Elijah's a heck of a coach, but yeah, Syracuse did not have a great season. So yeah, they certainly made a dent locally. We'll see, and there's a mailbag question about this later. Are there any immediate contributors? We'll see. Colin, what did you think of this class so far, and maybe some takeaways from yesterday?
I think my biggest thing is kind of looking at the class like positionally and the players they brought in, and they wanted to bring in offensive linemen, and I'm really impressed with the 5 offensive linemen they got to bring in, and how Clayton Barnes kind of talked about how they like felt like the size was there, the length was there to play at this level, and now they're committing to trying to develop these guys as offensive linemen. We've seen the offensive line kind of struggle and be a revolving door the last couple years, and to kind of bring in their own guys they want to develop who could contribute in a couple years, I think is really encouraging for the offense that they try to run right now. Who knows if the offense stays that way, but with the offense that they're currently running with wanting to run the ball, I think that's an important thing as well, trying to get those offensive linemen. And then I fully agree with Ryan with the local thing as well. Like that's just so important in my mind too.
The 5 offensive linemen, you have Karon Spencer, who I mentioned before, Jonah Tarpley, a guy that if you go back and listen to my full interview with Karon Spencer, he talks about how he knows Jonah Tarpley and they've become friends, playing at high schools that are close to each other in Maryland. And then Logan King, a guy that Ryan is going to be talking to pretty soon. I talked to him earlier in the fall when he committed, one of the 3 guys from St. Francis Academy. So they got 3 guys from the number 2, if you're into Max Preps rankings, St. Francis, number 2 ranked team in the entire country right now. And so Logan King's a cool story where he had some FCS offers, and his teammates basically told Al Johnson, hey, you should take a look at this guy. So he ended up getting an offer and committing. And then you had John Watkins, who committed back in June, and then Logan Cohen, wide receiver, not an offensive lineman. So, but 3 guys from St. Francis, and then Aiden Zilker from North Schuylkill High School. And who am I forgetting here on the offensive line? I talked about Logan King, talked about Karon Spencer, Aiden Zilker, John Watkins, Jonah Tarpley. So I think I got everybody. Khalif McNear, again, a preferred walk-on coming in from Roman, the alma mater of Greg Paone, who we'll be talking to. A lot of synergy here today. But yeah, a foundational, what they hope is a foundational recruiting class with 5 offensive linemen. And again, if you listen to the entire interview from yesterday, Clayton talks about, hey, that's a position where we want to build. Yes, they will try to get guys in the portal, but you can see how they've tried to keep continuity from last year's offensive line. They have to get better there. So regarding the roster and getting back to that, as I said before, the staff is having year-end meetings with players, and I asked Clayton about how they frame these conversations with players in terms of the money they could get at Temple versus somewhere else. And I thought his answer was, again, none of this stuff is like super shocking, but these are a lot of the questions that you guys ask us, like how they put the roster together, how much rev share money are they getting. KC said we're about 80% of to whatever goal. They didn't give us a tangible number, but they talked a lot about that yesterday, about the dollars and cents of this. But here's Clayton Barnes talking to me, and I asked him this question yesterday about, how do you manage those conversations? Is it a matter of these guys trying to know their worth and like, player X could get this dollar amount here, but is he just a guy in the room here versus the guy here? And here was Clayton's answer to that question.
When you're having those conversations with guys, is some of the math kind of saying, okay, I could get twice as much at school X, but at school X, this six-figure amount makes me like just a guy in that room. This amount here makes me the guy in the room. How much of it is kind of parsing that out?
I mean, that's honestly, it's a huge part of the conversation, because the reality is if a P4 school wants to take one of our guys and make him a starter and pay him like a starter, there's not a whole lot we can do. Like that's just a bridge too far. However, if they're trying to offer backup money, they're trying to offer like rotational or development type money for our guys, that's where we have to be able to close the gap and say, hey, take a little bit less, you're going to play. You're a made man here. You're on track to be everything you want to be. Like you look at all the players that have gotten to the NFL from here, like Deion Dawkins is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. It came from Temple. You can be a tackle here and get there. Like, don't throw off your trajectory by going somewhere not playing. Because the last thing you want to do is not have the tape. You're going to have the ability to have the tape here. You're going to have the ability to develop here and grow here. So don't go somewhere and put yourself on a bench and now you're completely fall off the radar. So that's a big part of the conversation is, we have to make sure on our side that we're raising enough funding and we're taking care of our investments that we can bridge that gap or we can be competitive with what's P4 backup money. Because if a kid's going to be future first-round draft pick, like starter is going to be plug and play at the P4 level, probably not a whole lot we can do at that point. But if someone's trying to take him just to add as a body to the roster, that's where we have to win. We have to be able to win that battle and sell who we are as a program, lean on the relationships we have, and show them that there's a path forward to where they want to be. Don't take the smaller check and give it the big check by not giving yourself a chance to play on Sundays.
We'll keep sending you guys back to yesterday's interview, and we'll tell you that we're going to have a lot more signing day content in the coming days. There's stories upon stories we could do about this class with 33 players and more to come. One of the things that Keeler talked about right near the end of his presser yesterday, talked about how there's stability at Temple and how that could potentially be an advantage for them. And then he said, this is my last job. I know, again, that's probably not really news or a huge surprise given the fact that he's 66 years old. But, for a fan base that feels like they've been burned, when a coach leaves, it's never long enough. I mean, you see how... it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but you have people down in Oxford, Mississippi showing up to flip off Lane Kiffin as he's leaving. Again, I don't think he handled things in the best way, but this is a fan base that has wanted a coach to stay. Now, Keeler in year 2 and year 3 and year 4 still has to prove that he's a coach that you want to stay, but we're going to be asked later on in the mailbag to grade this staff again. I like that question. But 5 wins, could have been more, but a guy that's won 2 FCS national championships, I think it was interesting. They said, this is my last job. But here is that audio of Keeler addressing that point.
Think about it. Half the teams that we're going to play this year, almost half the teams are going to be coaches. That's different at Temple. I mean, this is my last job, okay? And, my wife has made that very clear. This is my last job. And I want this to be my last job. And so, there's stability here. And they know that, I'm going to be the head coach tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. I'm not looking for that next job.
So again, you can listen to the entire signing day interview with Keeler and Clayton Barnes at OwlScoop.com. Got a lot more stuff to come. As I said, Ryan's talking to Logan King. You can check out my interview with Karon Spencer that's up on the site right now. Tula Phillip is supposed to be talking to Cohen Logan as well from St. Francis Academy. So we're going to try to just bring you as much content as we can from this class because we know this is the equivalent of mock drafts for college fans. So we'll see. As we say every year, we'll see how these classes pan out. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years to figure out how these classes go. And in today's college football, you don't know if some of these guys are going to stick around for 2 or 3 years. But a lot more signing day coverage to come and a lot more recruiting coverage to come. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in the mailbag as well. Sitting patiently with us.
Am I allowed to talk now?
Yeah, you're allowed to
my
talk.
muzzle off?
This is Greg Paone used to write for us at OwlScoop. Did you do the scoop with us before? Were you on the pod as much or no?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. It was right when we started. It was in your old office.
Yeah.
Me, you, and Kyle.
Yeah.
That was right when we started it.
Yeah. So Greg Paone, I'm really, really thrilled to have Greg here, and not just because we're good friends, but there's a reason for having Greg here. Again, as I mentioned earlier, he's the Director of Regional Integrated Marketing at the American Cancer Society, and we get it. Like, if you're a Temple basketball fan right now, you wanted them to be playing for a Big Five title this Saturday. It's not happening. They're playing St. Joe's. Hopefully you're going down to Xfinity Mobile Arena, and we get that you're all big college basketball fans, but there is a bigger and just as meaningful purpose to Saturday. The American Cancer Society is going to be heavily involved at the Big Five Classic. They're going to have a table at the arena, the coaches and sneakers, a big presentation at halftime of the Temple St. Joe's game. But Greg, really appreciate you being here. We've got a lot of stuff to get into, but just tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Well, first off,
Yeah.
Let's peel back the onion a little bit.
Peel back the onion.
It's a pleasure to be back here with John, Ryan, Colin, and all these beautiful people on the interwebs on the premier, number one, Temple Sports lifestyle and relationship advice podcast. It's where I get all my lifestyle and relationship advice. Information.
I hope Missy doesn't think that we're giving you like marriage advice or relationship advice, right?
I don't even know if she knows I'm here today.
Well,
to be honest with you. So yeah, there's
nevertheless, I'm sure you're finding your marriage.
Relationship advice. Communication is key.
Yeah, communication is key. Yes. These guys have girlfriends. They know.
Okay, there you
they
go.
know. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, Greg, the cool thing is again, you're a Temple grad, and you worked at NBC Sports Philadelphia. You covered college sports. There were so many road trips that we took together. You worked for OwlScoop. Tell us about how you ended up at the American Cancer Society and a little bit of the work that you're doing there now and why it's important to you.
Yeah. So as John, you know, and probably our loyal listeners here know, Temple grad. I covered Temple for a number of years, like you said. Worked at NBC Sports. You know, and this is no secret. I'm not breaking any news here. You know, there were a lot of transitions that went on in NBC Sports during my time there. A lot of changes, management, ways things were operated, and I had reached a point where I was like, you know, I gotta seriously start thinking about my future. And I had always done nonprofit communications on the side to make a little extra money, and I was like, you know what, I think it's time. And you know, with those changes and you know different changes in life, kind of just decided to focus on that. It's been, I think I left NBC Sports in 2018, so it's been 7 years since I've actually professionally written something, which is kind of crazy to think about. But everything I did here with OwlScoop at Temple at NBC Sports has really helped me get to this point. Like in my role now at the American Cancer Society Philly, like Director of Regional Integrated Marketing pretty much means that I'm like an in-house PR agency. I'm out connecting, talking to reporters, going to all of our events, trying to get us out in the news, you know, doing whatever I can to really raise awareness of what we're doing. And everything I did at Temple, at OwlScoop, at NBC Sports really set the foundation for what I do now. Like, if people ask me would I trade my journalism degree for anything, I'd say no, because it taught me how to get to where I'm at. The biggest thing I do is learn how to talk to people. Every audience is different. I learned that by being in locker rooms. I learned that by being 23, 24 years old in the Flyers locker room and talking to players, learning, hey, I'm not going to talk to that guy differently after a win than I am a loss. Like, I'm not going to be happy-go-lucky after a loss. Got to, you know, shape my questions. Know who's in a good mood. Know who's in a bad mood. So that all that really helps me in my role now and help me get to where I'm at. So yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it.
Tell us about this weekend, about what the involvement of the American Cancer Society at the Big Five Classic.
As I'm sure most of you know, the Big Five coaches have been historically very giving when it comes to coaches versus cancer. The Philadelphia chapter of the Coaches versus Cancer was actually started by Fran Dunphy and Phil Martelli in 1996. John Chaney was looped in shortly afterwards, as was Steve Lapis at the time, and I believe I'm forgetting the other two coaches for
Speedy Morris.
Speedy was there, and I believe
How
Bill.
did you forget a Roxborough guy?
I don't know, man. A Roman guy too. He's gonna.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's a double doozy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then I believe Bill Harrion, if I'm saying that correctly.
Bill Harrion was at Drexel.
Was at Drexel. Yep. So those 6 guys really start the chapter, and in that time, from 1996 to now, the Philadelphia chapter of Coaches versus Cancer is the most successful in the country, raising over $23 million.
That's amazing.
To the cause. And Phil and Fran are still huge engines behind it. I can tell you, you know, it goes a little bit under the radar, but Temple fans should be very thrilled to have a guy like Adam Fisher as their coach. Adam is so giving with his time to what he does for Coaches versus Cancer. Always willing. We give him a call, and he'll be like, if I can do it, I'll be there as soon as I can. He had his team up in September at the Hope Lodge in Cheltenham, which I'll get into in a little bit, serving dinner and going and meeting and greeting all the people undergoing treatment there. And so you guys should be really super proud to have a guy like Adam. He's a good dude, for sure.
What are some of the things that people are going to see this weekend at down in South Philly?
So obviously the Big Five Classic and Coaches versus Cancer are really intertwined. All of our coaches are going to be wearing sneakers for us for cancer awareness. We'll have a table set up outside section 109 at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. We'll be giving out information, have some cool giveaways, and really, just to share how everybody can get involved. Again, it's a fun weekend, but everybody has a tie to cancer. John, I know obviously from your dad,
Yeah, but I'm one of millions. I hate when I say this to people. It's like everybody's family has been affected by cancer, and if it hasn't yet, not that I want it to be, but it's it's a wicked, awful disease.
Everybody has a connection somewhere, and events like the Big Five Classic kind of bring all of those people together. You could be a Temple fan, a St. Joe's fan, a Villanova fan, LaSalle fan, Drexel fan, Penn fan. In the fight against cancer, you're all on the same team.
Yeah,
you're all on the same team, and we're here to support that fight. And do everything we can, really. So we'll be handing out information, how you can donate, how you can be involved. We're always looking for volunteers. Our Coaches versus Cancer events, we have year-round events. So obviously, we had our kickoff event at the Six Man Center in Nicetown in October.
Tell people about that, because I wanted to be there and I couldn't go, and I'm going to be there a lot more in the future for another project that I'm working on. But just getting texts from you, it was like I was there. Tell people about that, because I know a lot of our listeners have gone to it in the past, and there have been a lot of Temple fans who listen to this podcast who have been very kind with their time and their money. I'm thinking of the Holden Hummels of the world.
Shout out Adam DeVoren.
Adam DeVoren, everybody's favorite PR instructor here. Hey, he goes around wearing an OwlScoop hat.
He does, and he told me, he actually texted me a few weeks ago. He's like, "You were mentioned this week. Did you listen?" And I was like, not yet.
Adam's great. He literally will listen to he will listen to people's work. He will read stories, and people think, is he just being a fanboy? He literally will take the time to consume your content. He's great. But yeah, there are a lot of Temple people who have gone to this event in the past. But tell them about this year's event, because you said it was very fun. It was very colorful.
It was fun. In the past, it had been at the Hilton on City Avenue, and hotel ballrooms are fine. They serve a purpose, whatever. If anybody has not been to the Six Man Center in Nicetown yet, you have to go. It is a state-of-the-art facility. It is, a basketball palace almost. An inner-city basketball palace is how I would put it.
Yeah, Kenny Holtzman is... the city of Philadelphia is very, very lucky to have Kenny Holtzman. And obviously all of the people... Yeah. Including Alan Horowitz himself, who was a huge financial backer of it. But just, amazing place.
They did the event right on the floor, right on the basketball floor with the stage set up. And it's really an intimate opportunity to really meet all the coaches and get to know them. Now, obviously, we do interviews with them with NBC Sports to promote the Big Five Classic, but they're there mingling. They're there with everybody else until it's time to, get up on the stage and talk about the season, basically. And then they're there mingling afterwards, too. Fran Dunphy was there this year. We had... I'm trying to think who else we had there. Fran was there. Fran was there at a table just mingling with everybody. Yeah. And Fran is, like I said, he's still heavily involved. He and his wife both are heavily involved in everything that we do. Phil Martelli and his wife are heavily involved. But that's a fun event because you really get to meet them, to use a journalism term, off the record. Yeah. You get to meet them in their more personal manner, get to talk to them, get to know them a little bit. We got to meet everybody this year. We met Kevin Willard for the first time, so it's nice to get to know Kevin a little bit. Turns out Zach Spiker and I have a mutual friend.
There you go.
So that was cool. Yeah, it was definitely it's a really fun event. I highly encourage if you can do it to get there, and it's an event where we raise money too. All these events, that's what it's for, to raise money. So we have then the Big Five Classic. In March at the Palestra, we will have a tournament tip-off breakfast. I believe it's the Monday before the NCAA tournament starts. That's a big community and business networking event. So, everybody's obviously invited to that. Come grab a ticket. It's really fun. And you obviously get to come to the Palestra too. In April, we have a gala at the Bellevue, Black Tie Gala. That's Fran, the Dumfies and the Martellis are super heavily involved with that. We honor somebody each year. Jay Wright also comes every year. Jay is very involved in that as well. And then we have golf outings throughout the summer. to support, where again the coaches come and you can kind of meet them, they'll play, and then you can kind of meet them again in a more casual environment. And all of this again raises money for the Hope Lodge in Cheltenham.
Tell people a little bit more about the Hope Lodge. I believe, and I don't want to misquote him, but we've had Andy Carl on our podcast before, and when Andy was running the Tough Fund before, he would take, as part of the charitable initiatives, he would get Temple players up there, and he I haven't been up there yet, but when he said, like, everybody needs to go up there to see how these people are impacted, what they're going through, and then how favorably they respond to people going up there, because it's an amazing place.
So the Hope Lodge, and there are several of them throughout the country, many major metropolitan areas have them. The one in Philadelphia is in Cheltenham. So the Hope Lodge, it is a, like I said, it's a lodge. The one in Philadelphia is a 37-room facility where cancer patients who live 40 miles outside the city can stay free of charge, have all their meals covered, and get transportation to their cancer treatments at the local centers here. So we are affiliated with Temple, Jefferson, Penn, Cooper specifically, but we will take you to anyone you want to go to. And it's just an amazing place. People are just so grateful that you care, really. We have different groups throughout the year. We just had the Phillies alumni out there serving Thanksgiving dinner. Like I said, Adam has brought the Temple team. Diane Richardson was also there with her team that night. It's a really, really great place. It's really inspirational. I had the chance to go to the one in Atlanta too recently, and just like so many just good people giving, and so many good people who are grateful. And it's a really reminder of, like, sometimes we can take things for granted. And these people, will remind you that, hey, life is fragile, but you also got to have fun too.
Yeah.
And we're always looking, if anybody's businesses ever want to come and visit, I'll give out my information before we end here. If anybody's businesses ever want to come and visit, we're always open to that. We're always looking for volunteers who want to drive people from the Hope Lodge to their treatments. We have a program called Road to Recovery. Volunteer drivers, always looking for them. And everything Coaches vs. Cancer does supports that Hope Lodge in Cheltenham.
There's so many wonderful things about that. And again, if you haven't gone through this, God bless you. But like, there are so many people, even just in the Philly suburbs here, who have to come to Penn or have to come to Fox Chase for treatments. And they're not comfortable driving into the city. And then, like, on top of that, they're like, I'm going in for chemo, and I don't know how I'm going to get home after that because I'm going to be nauseous. And even just, I remember taking my dad he used to get his infusions locally in Chester County, but like when you have to come in for bigger appointments at Penn, usually like the worst issue of your day is like, oh, I had to look for a parking spot. Well, now you're looking for a parking spot, you're looking for a garage spot, and you have the stress of cancer, like, on top of that. What they do just to give people like a little bit of ease in that day, I can't, like, it's
they have
really
so many
sweet.
guest visitors come. They have theme nights. They do all different kinds. They do yoga classes. They do all different kinds of things. They have people come in, give haircuts, do nails, things like that. It's a really, really, really amazing place. And I'm not just saying that because I work there. I would say the same thing no matter what. And ours is, we're very happy to have one of the, I guess you can say, the neat thing too is like everyone in every major metropolitan area is different. So like the ones in Texas are kind of based like a ranch. The ones out west are kind of like Western style. The one here is like a suburban Philly farmhouse, basically.
in Cheltenham.
In Cheltenham. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's I highly encourage anybody to take the chance to come out. And like I said, everything Coaches vs. Cancer does. So the lobby there at the one in Cheltenham is dedicated to the Martellis and the Dunphys for all the work they've done. There's a plaque there. We're scheduled to have an on-court presentation during halftime of the St. Joe's Temple game. Now, that could change. That's fluid depending on how like the day goes for like, the first game and everything. But we're scheduled to have some sort of presentation. And then for those watching at home, NBC Sports will be doing ad reads during the game. Just to give a little background, we'll have a QR code on our website up there as well. And I'll give out all that information before we end. So if you're at the game, you'll have opportunity to do it. If you're watching from home, you have the opportunity to be involved.
How many people come to you and say, I want to be involved because it's affected me?
A lot. I don't even know if I can count, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can put a number on it. It's that. It's, I want to be involved. Either, I'm a former patient, I beat it, or it's I want to tell my story to help others. I want to tell my story to get encouraged, to encourage others to get screened. I don't want other people to end up the way I ended up, sort of thing. I know that sounds bad saying that, but it's more of it's in a lot of different ways. Or it's my mom suffered from this. I'm doing this for her. I want to do something for her, sort of thing. So honestly, I can't even count. Really, I've been in this role a handful of months now, and like even from the first time I started, people hear, "Oh, you're with the American Cancer Society. What can I do?"
That's awesome. Greg, how can people donate? Where can they go to donate? Or where can they go to donate, volunteer, help? How can they get in touch with you? How can they get in touch with the people?
Yeah, so to get in touch, to be involved with Coaches versus Cancer, go to www.cvcphilly.org. That'll give you, it'll give you the history of CVC Philly. It'll give you the background of our events, but also how you can be involved, how you can donate, how you can volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers for events. We're always looking for volunteers for things. And obviously, look, like, we're always looking for donations too. If we're gonna be real about it, like, that is a big part of what we do.
Sure.
And that's how we take part in this battle. If anybody wants to reach out to me personally for more information, you can reach me at Greg, Greg.Paone, Paone @cancer.org. Just reach out if you want to be involved. I can get you in touch with anybody who could use the help. Obviously, and there are a ton of people. If you want to just donate quietly, I can help you out there too. Whatever you want to do, just I always have an open inbox. Just reach out. And I should mention also, we will be at the Women's Big Five Classic in Villanova on Sunday as well. We will have a table set up there as well. We'll have a table set up at the Pavilion on Sunday afternoon.
Stuff. Thank you, Greg. Greg, before we close things out with you here, and if you want to stick around in the mailbag, please do.
I love the mailbag.
You did,
it's my favorite part of the podcast.
What was your favorite OwlScoop road trip?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. Can I tell a favorite OwlScoop moment that wasn't a road trip? And I'm upset that Kyle's not here for this.
Sure.
I was thinking about this on my ride in earlier today. When you're in the sports journalism world or in the sports PR world or whatever else, you get to meet a lot of different people you've seen on TV before, right?
Yeah.
And you get to meet some of your favorite athletes and heroes and things like that. Like, I'm 23 years old. I was in an interview scrum with Peter Forsberg, who I loved growing up. I was in an interview scrum with Sidney Crosby. You get to meet all these different people that you.
Greggy Pucks, I forget.
Yeah, Greggy Pucks. You really learn very quickly. Okay, it's a working environment. Don't get too excited, sort of thing. Stay level-headed, because again, you figure out that they're real people too. There was one moment. I want to say it was Temple basketball. I want to say 2014 or 2015 season, and I don't even know if you might not remember this, but I know for a fact Kyle does. So we're sitting down, we're having our pizza before the game. I think they're playing Memphis, and we got there late, and there was only a couple open seats left in the cafeteria or the eating area, catering area. Sit down, we're eating, and all of a sudden this mysterious figure comes over to us. It's one Sam Hinkie. Now, this was at a time where Sam Hinkie was never seen anywhere. Anywhere, never heard anywhere. Kyle and I are literally punching each other in the leg below the seat to make sure we are not cracking up. It was the closest I've ever come to cracking. And Sam sits down, has a bite of pizza, and just looks at us and goes, "Good evening." And starts eating his pizza. And Kyle and I were like, "Oh my God, it's Sam Hinkie."
So you guys were processors.
I wasn't. It was just Sam Hinkie was so mysterious at the time. It was he was catching that. It was we caught that one Pokemon you could never catch, but it was Sam Hinkie.
He came.
He came to scout somebody. Yeah. They were either playing Memphis or were they? They might have been playing Larry Brown's SMU.
It might have been SMU.
You know what? I
vaguely remember this
because they had Marcus Kennedy. Do you remember Marcus Kennedy?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Marcus Kennedy was a prospect at that time, and I think that's what it was. They were playing SMU.
And wasn't Marcus Kennedy was originally at Nova, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have road trip stories for days.
Yeah.
We don't even have to tell what happened in State College that one time. That is for.
Well, let's. Yeah. I mean,
that's for the premium. That's the premium content.
That was you and Kyle up there.
That's the premium content you got to pay for.
Hartford.
We went to Annapolis a handful of times.
Yes. We shared the story before we started recording about how we were on our way back from Rutgers, and I started getting bizarre chest pains and pain in my arm, and I was like, "Am I having a heart attack?" And you were like, "I will stay with you until we get home." And
I will take on OwlScoop if anything happens to you.
I will carry the site from here.
I will carry the shield of OwlScoop.
So, well, Greg, I appreciate you being here, and I'm thankful to have you around. We're going to have you stick around for the mailbag. obviously if you're heading down to the Big Five Classic, both Big Five Classics this weekend, whether it's the women's games at Villanova on Sunday or the men's games in South Philly on Saturday. Again, we're going to talk more hoops in the future, but this is going to be more of a signing day podcast. Well, if you've been following along, Temple lost to Villanova 74-56. Not a good second half showing for the Owls out at Villanova. They're going to play St. Joe's for second place Saturday, again at the Big Five Classic. The Temple women split their games at the Baha Mar Hoops tournament. They lost 85-50 to number 20 Michigan State, and then they beat Western Carolina. Ryan, trivia time for you. Greg will probably get this. There are 2 former Temple head football coaches with ties to Western Carolina. Can you name them?
2?
Yeah. And I'm not asking you to talk about like Pop Warner or like Wayne Harden or anything. God rest their souls, both of them. These are more recent coaches.
About Horace Butterworth.
No.
Like how? Like in the 2000s?
They are both still. One's still a current college head coach, and one is a coordinator.
Al Golden.
No. Keep guessing. Well, they met each other at Western Carolina, and when one left, he recommended this guy for the job and helped him get the job.
Is Matt Rule one of them?
Matt Rule is one of them.
Is Steve Andazio another one?
No, it's not Steve Dazio, not the Dazzler.
No, but he's a dude.
Guys being dudes. No, Jeff Collins.
Oh,
He met
okay.
on the Western Carolina staff.
Okay.
So
I was trying to go either before or after. Okay,
yeah. So, and then the women are going to play. They beat Western Carolina 84-64 in their final game there. Ray Don got a nice trip out of it down to the beautiful sunny weather there. No, we love Ray. Ray does a great job broadcasting games down there. They'll play Drexel. The women will play Drexel Sunday for the second place game at the Finner Pavilion. We're going to have coverage of both games for you this weekend. As I mentioned before, I think with both these teams at this point, you can see that they're really going to have to hope to play their best basketball in March. Diane's team has played a really, really tough schedule with West Virginia. We see how good Villanova is now and that they beat West Virginia. The Temple women beat George Mason earlier in the season, but they lost to Richmond. They lost to West Virginia. Now they lose to Michigan State. I don't know if they're going to have any sort of resume-building win that would give them in or get them in isn't that large. And with the men, of course, they're just going to have to – I don't know that their schedule was going to get them in, but now they're really going to have to be playing their best basketball in March. They got a long way to go. Some stretches, like in the first half, they defended better. Second half, not so much. They got crushed on the board. So a lot of work for both of these teams to do. We're going to hop into the mailbag here as we talk to you about each week. Our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers provides you with a weekly tip before we get into the mailbag. Again, he's the best injury lawyer you could hope to have on your side, but he wants to make sure that you stay safe out there so that you may not need his services. So here is Mike's weekly tip for you, and then we'll hop into the mailbag with another guest to answer a question directly.
If you spend a lot of time out on the road, there's another way that you can keep yourself safe, and that's by having a dash cam installed in your car. A dash cam will record the actions of the cars in front of you and behind you. So if you have the misfortune of being involved in a car crash, that camera will have documented proof to show that you weren't at fault. You may never have to use this as part of a lawsuit or in court, but knowing that it's there and knowing that there is video that will back up what you said happened will be instrumental in protecting you from a baseless claim against you, and if you are in fact injured due to no fault of your own, in proving that it was the other vehicle's fault. Look into it. Dash cams are not that expensive and will provide you valuable evidence for your potential case. Stay safe out there.
All right, we're going to lead off the mailbag here with another special guest, and this special guest happens to know Greg Paone. Just a fun episode this week. Our friend Jeff Neiburg from the Philadelphia Inquirer, who's just a lovely human being, one of my favorite people in the whole world, is with us on the scoop this week because, Jeff, first of all, how are you?
Yeah, well, why jump right to business? Can we just say hello, a little foreplay? Like, hello, John, I'm doing well. How are you?
Hey, Jeff, welcome to the OwlScoop podcast, the Synergy episode.
Oh, love it. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, I don't see you enough. Hopefully Chell and I can see you and Lisa this month, do something Christmassy, but we just saw each other at our buddy Garrett Miley's wedding in Ocean City last month, which was just delightful. So saw you recently. Hope to see you again this month. But Jeff, I thought, why not get the man who wrote this story that we got a mailbag question about, one of the listeners here, he goes by a screen name. This is TU1834 from our message board. So this is his question. This is about, and I should add that Jeff has been kind enough to spend some time with us. He is literally down at the NovaCare complex right now. He's one of the guys on the Eagles beat, one of the people on the Eagles beat at the Inquirer, but he's also covering college basketball as well. I would have been with you there on Monday if I did not have COVID, but I'm feeling better, guys. I'm not going to infect you with COVID. I tested negative, so I would have seen you Monday. But so you were there Monday, but the piece that you wrote today, I'm just going to get right to this question. And you wrote about like the future viability of doing the Big Five Classic and whether it still makes sense. So I'm going to read you this mailbag question from one of our longtime subscribers. Again, the screen name here is TU1834. So here's his question. I would be interested in your take on the Jeff Neiburg article in the Inquirer about the Big Five. I have no accusation of bias or anything here, which I know has come up with other posters about other writers. So for the record, Jeff went to Temple, so I don't think he has an anti-Temple slant here. My 2 cents. I read it as an endorsement of the notion that Villanova not only could, but should prioritize the revenue from 2 other home games that rather than any version of the Big Five. I'm of the opinion that a fair compensation structure in college athletics doesn't preclude preserving the traditions that made college sports an anchor of sporting culture in the United States. This doesn't seem all that controversial to me. To label any argument to the contrary as, quote, boo-hoo is pretty flippant. Just because you can doesn't mean you have to. That's just acquiescing to greed as inevitable and not navigable. I would hope that at the paper of record in the city, you could find this easy answer to the central question posed. Too bad, figure it out. This is inherently worth it. So Jeff Neiburg, what's your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a fair question to ask. It is a fair criticism. I would argue that I'm sure the quote "boohoo" was in the story. I said, and here's a direct passage from the story. After I describe the money that Villanova is missing out on, I say that's hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue Villanova isn't bringing in. Sure, your reaction to that can be boohoo. I would say I was being intentionally flippant there. I was trying to be cute. Maybe it wasn't that cute. I don't think that the only argument against that is like I'm not just labeling everything boohoo. So I want to say that I'm not just writing off every response or every criticism to this theory as boohoo. I think there are some sound arguments to be made. The question asker made some of them. This is a tradition that has been going on for a long time. But I wouldn't say I was endorsing what Villanova should do, but it's sort of a little bit part of my job to help set expectations. And I would say that my goal was to do that more than anything else with this piece. But it's something that not just Eric Rodel, the Villanova athletic director, not just Kevin Willard are thinking about. And I grew up here. I grew up going to games at the Palestra. My grandfather, after he retired, worked as a parking lot attendant at the Palestra, and he used to get my dad and I into Penn Princeton games and Temple St. Joe's games and all that great stuff. And it's, these things were really great. It was like formative for my, sports fandom experiences and all that great stuff. But we just can't act like things shouldn't change and things don't change, and that these traditions that we value and hold close to our heart last forever, and they shouldn't just be they don't have to just because we want them to. And I would argue, and earlier this morning, I looked at the tickets available for Saturday's Big Five Classic, and you could sit almost wherever you want. I mean, there's nobody's going. I'm not gonna say nobody, but there are thousands and thousands of tickets available. Mm-hmm. So if we can, I've heard this criticism, not just from this question. I had this conversation with my dad a couple weeks ago. I've had this conversation with someone I love and admire, Mike Jensen, about that. He hated that I was writing this. He hated some of the points that I made in the story.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. I had lunch with him a couple of days ago, and he was like, I felt like it was my dad yelling at me. It's like I was disappointing my father. But I've had so many people make this argument that the rivalries are important and the Big Five tradition is too important to walk away from. But I feel like those same people aren't buying tickets to go to games. They're not actually supporting the product. Mm-hmm. I make the point in the story that young people aren't attending these games anymore. There's not a culture of student sections anymore. The rivalries just aren't real. And I hate to be flippant about that part, but they're not. These kids some of them are transferring in the Big Five. There's no one you could walk around Temple's campus and ask students what they feel about LaSalle students. They're like, who can, like, they're not like, oh, that's our Big Five rival. We hate those people. Like, it's just not the same culture anymore. And look, I said in there, like, I don't think the game should like go away forever. Like, I think a viable alternative would be to have a Big Five Classic every year, where it's like one triple header, where all the 6 schools that go to the one building. I hope it's the Palestra, because I'm not trying to be anti-Palestra. I'm not anti Big Five. I'm not anti-Palestra. I would love for it to be there. Maybe it's the Xfinity Mobile Arena, because that's where the sponsorships are. But it's one day, and you have this tradition, and you bring it. You do all the pageantry, but it's just not feasible, I don't think, in this real world that Villanova is living in. I hate to just keep mentioning Villanova, and I'll get accused of Villanova bias as I'm wearing a blue sweater and a blue hat. I picked the wrong day to on this podcast after this story, but like, they're playing a different sport than the other 5 schools are, and they have to, like, revenue has never been more important. So are they going to just keep giving up $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 a year on this missed gate opportunities just for the sake of like nostalgia, just to appease people who aren't actually supporting the product, by the way? Like, this is just kind of the reality that I think these schools are living in right now. Well, and I'll stop rambling here.
Let me ask you this question too. I mean, and again, I think, not to ramble on here, I think this latest iteration of what they're doing, I have a lot of admiration for them trying to rejuvenate it. And I mean, it's funny that we're talking about this week, because Greg has a question for you. And obviously, and I know that you're in full support of this, like the American Cancer Society is going to be there this weekend, and they're trying to create fundraising opportunities there. But I mean, Temple has to be concerned about this too, right? And to be clear, I have not talked to Arthur Johnson about this, but like, Villanova is playing a different game in terms of rev share. Now, they don't have to worry about putting as much money into football. I don't even know if their football program has a rev share line in their budget, but I have not talked to Arthur Johnson about this. But I'm sure Arthur Johnson is in the same boat, where he's like, I don't know what Arthur Johnson's answer would be if, like, well, Arthur, if you have the chance to go send your basketball team to some sort of like NIL tournament, or like there's an opportunity for you to make money as opposed to doing this. I'm not asking him about it, and I'm sure Arthur respects the Big Five, but I think this affects, you're right, Villanova's rev share budget is in a different stratosphere than everybody else in the Big Five and the City Six with Drexel, but don't you think this probably affects Temple too? I mean, they're looking for revenue dollars. They see where they've made progress, and they see where they need to get to. Isn't this could be a Temple thing too as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like in some future version of this current format, they'd have to, in theory. Well, they already did. Actually, they already played a road game at Drexel. Like, what is Temple doing playing a road game at Drexel? Mm-hmm. What is the point of that road game at Drexel?
Yeah.
Right. Like, you tell me, right? What's the point of, like, there's almost no point in it, right? Like, in this current world we live in, like, you don't need to play a road game against a bad opponent. All due respect to Zach Spiker, who I enjoy a lot, and Drexel, but like, you don't need to play a road game there. And you shouldn't be playing a road game there. There's only a finite amount of non-conference games that you have. And going back to the question, like, I hate to just boil this all down to money, and it seems so like anti-amateurism, but like, we need to like stop pretending like that's the word. Like, these guys are professional athletes.
Yeah.
Like, I just like hate, like, I hate this like rah tradition stuff and the foundation of college sports. I'm sorry, like, find a high school team to root for. And I don't mean to be rude about it, but like, this is not amateur athletics anymore. These are not like rah college games anymore. This is a minor league professional sport. But yeah, this obviously affects Temple. And you, like I said, you have a finite amount of non-conference games. To spend 3 of them playing these games, is that worthwhile? I don't know. I have not asked Arthur the question either. I will say he's not anybody. He's not one of the handful of people that I talked to on background for this story. I have not talked to him about it, but I would wonder what his. Honestly, I'd be more interested in talking to him off the record than on the record about this, because
yeah, I was going to ask you.
Yeah, there are too many people right now who probably wouldn't want to say things on the record, who feel quite differently off the record. So I'd be interested.
Because they probably don't want to get caught in the crosshairs of like, if you say anything about it, it's like, oh, you're which you've addressed, like, you're anti-tradition. And like, again, I get it. It's like, on one hand, it's a cool thing that we here in Philadelphia, and you know this because you are covering the Eagles, and you guys know that if if Nick Sirianni picks his nose, it's a story, and that's part of your job too. So we know that we're in a pro sports craze city. It's kind of cool in a sense that people even still get fired up about this debate, and I think it is worth debating. But yeah, I think sometimes even speaking out on this, you can see like, again, TU1834 is a longtime subscriber of ours, and their opinions are valuable too. But I wonder, these athletic directors and the coaches, they have to tread so lightly sometimes, but I can't really disagree with anything you're saying. I mean, this is not college athletics anymore. It is paid amateurism. There are guys on Villanova's basketball team that are making more money than the marketing professionals who are trying to promote these games.
Way more.
People would be a recent college graduate would be happy to make what anyone in Villanova's starting backcourt is making, and it's just is what it is. I think if the NCAA had, the second that Ed O'Bannon sued them, and I think the NCAA could have figured it out years ago, but they tried to litigate everything. But that's a big reason where we are now. But Greg, I know you have a question for Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, and by the way, I support the blue hat. It's a good look.
Thank you. Actually, AJ Dillon, Eagles running back, said in the locker room to me a couple weeks ago that he liked the blue pop of this hat. I was wearing like a darker sweater like this, and it was kind of the pop. So now it's my favorite hat now because someone compliments your fashion, and you just got to keep wearing it. So.
Not to make this an Eagles podcast, but did you think AJ Dillon would still be on the roster at this point to compliment your hat?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm versatile. I can go back and forth here but go ahead.
So Jeff, you guys kind of touched on this a little bit. Obviously, we're living in a different world of college sports these days. That goes without saying. How much do you think that it's kind of like a perfect storm? One, the world of college sports changing, but two, Villanova's prolonged dominance. Do you think it's kind of been a drain on what the Big Five is? And, you talk to any number of Villanova fans, and I married into a family full of them, and I'm telling them I'm going to the Big Five Classic this week, and they're like, we don't care about that. When does Big East play start? We don't care about that. When's UConn on the schedule? We don't care about that. What days does the tournament start? It feels like Villanova's prolonged dominance has kind of drained what the Big Five is, because it almost feels like they've outgrown it, like you kind of said.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously an element of that. I think anybody who's anti-Villanova would say, well, they didn't win it in the first 2 years of this format, and they'd be correct. But I would say that going forward, I would expect Kevin Willard to have a program that does not finish sixth in the Big Five Classic moving forward. So I just based on like the roster, the amount of money that Villanova was able to spend on a roster, like it's almost hard to imagine any one of these pool play games or any one of these Big Five Classic games for them to be like anything less than like a 15-point favorite, 12-point favorite. Like they're just going to be inherently better than all of these teams. And while, yeah, you sort of frame that question in a way that I think is like anti-Villanova, but like, how about the other five schools who have just been dreadful? That's a drain too,
yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah,
like Temple's inability to field, a tournament-worthy team. Penn has been down for a couple of years. Obviously, there's some momentum there with McCaffrey. St. Joe's, there was like some promising years under Billy toward the end there. We're like, oh, this is the year they're going to turn the corner. I mean, the teams just haven't been competitive enough to warrant much enthusiasm. But yeah, I mean, like, sure, in some ways, I would say that prolonged dominance has contributed to it. But I would say that in some ways, the other schools are just as much as at fault there too. Although in this current world, the setup is such where they're not playing on like a level playing field. So, but that's out of everyone's control.
If you have time for one more question here, I kind of be
the Eagles locker room does not open for an hour, so
okay.
I'll sit here all day.
Let me ask you this. I mean, you were at the game Monday. What did you think of what you saw of Temple? I mean, again, I was sick. I was watching from home. In the first half, it looked like they were defending hard and they were sticking with them, and then obviously they got really significantly out rebounded, especially on the offensive glass. I think that I'm not breaking any news when I say that Villanova has a more talented and deeper roster. They have a bigger rev share budget, but and I know that he could eventually play more as he comes back from his injury, but like they can win games without Zion Stanford, whereas Temple was hoping that Zion would stay. They defended well in the first half. Did you see a roster there? Like, to me, this is a team that's just going to have to be hoping to play its best basketball in March and catch fire at the right time, and they need more time together. But did you see anything from Temple in the first half where they just looked like they got worn down in the second half, or was it just more fundamental breakdowns on the rebounding end? What did you think of the tale of, as cliche as it sounds, like a tale of two halves for Temple?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Temple played really tough in the first half. They threw Villanova off of what Villanova wanted to do. I do think Villanova missed like 3 or 4 layups that
Yeah.
it might have been like an 8 point game at half, and maybe we're not having the same type of conversation. Yeah, I mean, I loved truthfully, that was my first time watching a Temple game all season. I've not had, with my dual role, I don't have limited time for college hoops until later in the season. I loved what I saw out of the backcourt. Obviously, the front court just got torched. But to be fair, like Duke Brennan is like the best rebounder in the country at Villanova. I do think they didn't make him work hard enough to get some of his rebounds. I didn't think they were physical enough inside, and that like kind of like should be. I feel like when you hit like those type of players, like you want them to play a little more physically. So I thought like I was a little bit surprised by the lack of physicality at times from Temple, but I loved what I saw out of Tobiasen and Darian Ford. My first time seeing, obviously I saw Tobiasen play last year. First time seeing Darian Ford, was really impressed. I remember I asked you, because I got a question from a reader, or I forget who it was, but someone was like, who's Temple's best transfer addition? So I went to you, and you were really high on Darian Ford and loved what I saw of him. I mean, they're obviously going to win some games in the American. Like they've got good enough players to win games. Like, are they going to be in the top 4 of the conference? Like, I don't know, but probably not.
I don't know who's. That's why I think
it's all silly. Like who's like we don't know anything right now.
No, and there's going to be parity again. I would be curious to talk to some Villanova fans. I mean, again, obviously, like they don't have to put money. I don't want to say they put no money into football, but like again, they can afford to throw a lot of their resources at basketball. But I even talked to a couple Nova fans who are like, I don't know the roster this year. It's just never going to be the same again. But the American's a weird league this year. I don't know that Memphis is going to run away with it, but yeah, I was curious to get your take on Temple, because they've shown flashes, and then some other flashes are not flashes. They're like the dimming of a bulb, but it's like, oh wow, well they got past a defender here, but they didn't anticipate weak side help, and they get a ton of shots blocked against Boston College, or they flame out in the second half against Villanova. I just was curious as to how you saw this is a team that, and like you said, who knows? Do they just need more time together? Maybe a guy like Jemai Felt looks better in January and February and can be more of a front court presence. Maybe maybe Babatunde Dordola needs more time. But yeah, just curious about what you thought of the Owls. But I get why your story ticks some people off, but it's, I'd be hard pressed, and not just because we've known each other for a long time, but I'd be hard pressed to argue with a lot of some of the people who are complaining. And I'm not saying this directly about TU 1834. I know he's a pretty loyal fan and goes to games, but some of the people who, to circle back before we let you go here, like some of the people who complain about this stuff are not supporting local basketball at the gate. But even like the guy, I mean, I think like you have the story of a guy who's leading rebounder in the country who Villanova got from Grand Canyon. I mean, even his story is kind of fun. It's just, I think you said it best. Like the college basketball world we know now is not anything and will never be anything like what it's known in the past. And I think sometimes you try to reach people and say, I get it. I get where you're at. But if you want your team to be good in the future, and again, we will see what happens with people like Adam Fisher or any of the coaches in the Big Five. I mean, Adam supposedly has been extended. Temple hasn't officially announced it yet, but coaching matters. There's no question it matters, but you need players, and now you need money for players. I love you, buddy. Appreciate you joining us. It was just heartwarming to see you and Greg in the same space again. Did you guys graduate the same year, or I know you overlapped at Temple.
We overlapped. I graduated in 13, Jeff. I don't know. Did you, when?
I was December 14.
Yeah. So
oh, wow.
I graduated before him.
I would have graduated in 13 if I wasn't on the 5.5-year plan.
Yeah, I would have graduated in 12 if I wasn't on the 5.5-year plan. So yeah.
My guy.
So there we go. So there's the key. You want to work?
I would say it makes us speak about college sports with more authority. We were on campus longer than most people.
It's worth noting too. I mean, like people, I mean, we tease you anytime you write a Penn State story or a Villanova story. We have a group chat that we're in with friends, and like, I don't get it as much. Mike would get it a lot on our message boards. Mike Jensen, people would say like, "Oh, he's a Villanova grad." I'm like, no, he went to Vanderbilt. He doesn't have. I get people are free to have their opinions, but I knew you might get some flack on this one. I was like, yeah, Jeff didn't go to Villanova. He went to Temple, but he's not supposed to do Temple any favors, nor is he supposed to go out of his way. It's just like he's trying to write this down the middle. So I get it. Like, I thought it was a really interesting piece, just because, I do understand why the Big Five purists might say, I want this to come back. I want this to come back. And I get it. Like, that's awesome. Who doesn't like having fun memories of packing into the Palestra? But it's not where.
Well, I would tell that person right now, the person you're saying who says they want it to come back and they want to have fun watching their Big Five school, they can go online. There's a triple header on Saturday. I saw a seat earlier, like 3 rows off the court. $90 gets you 3 games in the third row, center court.
Yep.
Have fun. Please buy a ticket.
And I'm pretty
Enjoy.
sure that from what I was told this year, you can come and go as you please on one ticket.
Yes, you can on one.
You can
ticket.
come and go. You
Yeah.
can come and go. You can go to the first game, go to Xfinity Live, get something to eat, and then come back for the third game.
And you can see our Paone
baby. I didn't know that.
And support a great cause with
Yeah.
the American Cancer Society as well.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah. So you should be there. All right, so there you have it, TU 1834. There is the answer to your question. Big thank you to Jeff Neiburg from the Philadelphia Inquirer for joining us there in the mailbag, kind of a spur of the moment thing. But TU 1834, I appreciate the question. I certainly think that you are not alone in your sentiment, and I think Jeff acknowledged that. But it's an interesting conversation to have, and interesting in a week where we're talking primarily about football signing day stuff. But I knew Jeff would get a bit of a reaction on that. But hopefully you guys understand where he's coming from. I think there are people on both sides of the argument here that make some valuable points. But appreciate Jeff hopping on there. Anytime we can get you a direct answer from the source, we'll aim to do that. So a few other mailbag questions to get to here before we close out this week's episode of the podcast, brought to you as always by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. From the screen name Matt Deebs, anyone from the class stand out as a potential contributor next season? The answer is the portal, but how concerning is the D-line group next year, losing a ton of talent? So here we are again, the day after National Signing Day. The early period is still going on, and we're trying to predict of these 33 guys that have signed so far. Now, some of them are junior college players, and we're going to do our best to prognosticate, 19 of these guys, 20 or 21 of these guys at this point from the guys that are currently signed could be mid-year enrollees. Colin, Ryan had to dip out. I'm going to ask you to be a prognosticator here. Give me one guy who you think, again, this is pre-spring ball, pre-fall camp. Who's the guy who you think could potentially from this group contribute next year?
I think I'm in between two. I think I'm in between Judo Kaleke on the defensive line. This defensive line is losing a lot of guys to graduation this year with Alan Hay, Demarick Morris, Sekou Chroma all up front. They're graduating, could be in line for some more. Khalil Poteet just entered the transfer portal as well up there.
Although he's one of those guys who thinks he might get a year of extra eligibility and as of now doesn't have it. So.
And then I also look at RJ Blunt at running back with Jay Ducker graduating. And we saw Kevion Mason get some carries as a true freshman in the back half of the year and look good. R.J. Blunt had a really good year in senior year of high school. And he's a guy who, could make his stance in the running game this coming year, depending on how they kind of play with the scheme and with how they want to run the ball. But I think it's kind of between those two guys for me.
Yeah, R.J. Blunt's an interesting one because, again, not every player is different. Every coaching staff is different. But we've talked about it before on the pod. Some of the things that can hold you back as a running back are – how good are you in pass protection? How well do you pick up blitzes? Now, there aren't a ton of college backs who do it super, super well, and even when they get to the pros, it's something that they have to work on. But running back is typically a position where you can play earlier, and you don't have to. Yeah, you want to know the playbook, but you're not processing things at the level or expected to process things at the level that a quarterback has to. So R.J. Blunt put up some great numbers at Pennsauken High School. He's a guy that was constantly coming up in Kyle's recruiting roundup every week, so I think he's a good pick. For me, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to look at Asa Locks. Clayton Barnes talked about him on Wednesday and said he's a guy who could potentially step in and start at corner right away. In 2024, he had a really good freshman season at VMI, at Virginia Military Institute, and then he played a JUCO season this past year at Iowa Western Community College. 11 games, 24 total tackles, 3 picks, 1 return for a touchdown. They talked about his length, about 6 feet, 6'1", 185. I think this program so far, with one season as our sample size, has done a good job of finding some JUCO guys and D2 guys that can contribute right away, like a Jameer Jones, like a Charles Calhoun. But yeah, I mean, I'm getting this right from Clayton Barnes' mouth. Again, he said he's a guy who could potentially come in and start a corner right away. So I mean, he's a JUCO guy. If I were to pick a high school guy, yeah, I mean, RJ Blunt would be a good one. I think that they would prefer that their starting quarterback next year comes from the portal. Who that's going to be, we'll see. Otherwise, you're bringing in 3 guys there to compete in Brody Norman, Lamar Best, of course, the late addition from St. Joe, and Brady Palmer, who's an interesting story because he was playing at a high school outside Chicago, goes down to St. Thomas Aquinas, again, doesn't win the job down there. Clayton City missed some time, but I don't know if it's going to be one of the quarterbacks, but I would be intrigued to see if one of these offensive linemen cracks into the mix. They're going to have to fight to keep guys like Jacoby Hills, Eric King. They're having all these meetings right now. I wouldn't be totally surprised if you hear, especially if a couple of these offensive linemen, and I'm double checking now, I think at least a couple of them are getting in mid-year, right? So if they can get in mid-year, I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of these offensive linemen maybe kind of like cracks the code there and maybe see some snaps next year. But this is the fun stuff to predict and pontificate about. The second part of Matt Deebs' question here, as we said before, the answer is the portal, but how concerning is the defensive line group next year? And I think he's right. They're going to have to get some help with the portal, but they are losing some talent.
Yeah, like kind of what I said with Okaliki potentially playing. Like you lose Sekou Chroma, who didn't really play the back half of the year, but was still so important to that group. Alan Hay, Demerick Morris, Aaron Beckwith up front as well. So, I mean, like on the surface right now, like it does look kind of concerning because you have a lot of guys who really haven't played a lot of younger guys, freshmen, redshirt freshmen. The only kind of upperclassman there is KJ Miles, who saw like rotational snaps along that line. So, I mean, it's probably a little more concerning right now, but that's probably a position where I can see them looking towards the portal to try to find 2 or 3 bigger guys up front to fill those gaps of those graduating guys. It's just so hard to tell what's going to be concerning and what's not right now, just because the portal is going to open January 2nd, and then who knows who jumps in, who knows who comes back, what they bring in. So, but on paper right now, it is concerning to me right now.
Yeah, maybe that's a spot where Xavier Bishop could, one of the JUCO guys that they signed from East Mississippi Community College, maybe he helps. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree with you, Matt. Like, I think the answer is the portal. Whether some of the other guys that didn't play as many snaps, I totally appreciate the question, but yeah, we have to see who stays and who goes here. They are kind of figuring that stuff out right now. One of the other things that Clayton talked about, when asked yesterday, it was like, well, we do want answers from these guys before the holidays. Mm-hmm. It's like we kind of have to start making some informed decisions, but a good question. Temple Owls 86. Can you elaborate any more on the rev share initiative spearheaded by Adam that you sort of mentioned on the last pod when talking about his extension? Not yet. I just know, and I think more people are starting to figure out a couple of the initiatives and things that they're working on, but I think that's something that, I mean, for their sake, I hope they can announce it soon. I don't know if all that stuff is across the finish line yet, but again, both, Adam, Diane Richardson, and, Casey Keeler talked about yesterday, all of these coaches are kind of probably taking on more than they ever bargained for with fundraising, but I don't have Temple Owl 86. I don't have much more to elaborate on, but I do think that if this thing gets across the finish line for them, if and when it does, it's something that's gonna help them. I don't know if it's gonna put them in like the stratosphere of like major Power 4 programs, but they have nowhere to go but up. But can't say much more about it just yet. Temple Fan 45 is the screen name here. Easier said than done, but why don't we have a general manager for basketball? Andy Allison is in that chief of staff role where he is working on fundraising initiatives for them. I mean, I think Adam and his staff are essentially the general managers. They're looking at a roster where they say, okay, we have X number of players to be mindful of. I think Adam Fisher is your true general manager. Andy Allison, like I said, in that chief of staff role, he's helping them to find additional revenue streams. So he's the closest thing they have to a general manager. But Adam is very much in charge of figuring out, okay, how much are we going to allocate to this player, how much do we have for the portal? We got to TU 1834's question. Thank you again to Jeff Neiburg for joining us there. Lone Star 2000 is the screen name here. In episode 9, I like this question. Circle back shows that Lone Star 2000 is listening to the Scoop, so very much appreciate that. Episode 9 of the season. You were in diapers back then, Colin.
I probably was.
I didn't even know you back then.
Wasn't even growing facial hair yet. Still not.
In reality, it was 10 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But we'll pretend it was a long time ago. Anyway, again, Lone Star 2000, really do appreciate you circling back this. Episode 9, the OwlScoop team was asked to grade the coaches after the first 4 games. You rated the offensive coordinator a B to B+, the defensive coordinator a B-, special teams coaching a C to C+, in parentheses, he has negative on punting but positive on place kicking, and Keeler overall a B+. Now that the full season is in the books, which of the grades, if any, would you change and why? So let's look at this. Rated the offensive coordinator a B to B+. Part of me wants to give these guys B- across the board.
What I was thinking as well, because I feel like the offensive coordinator, there were some points in the latter half of the year where I especially think like the Navy game at the end with you running for the touchdown or you kneel and you kick. And then I also think the offense kind of withered down towards, especially that losing streak. Kind of makes me want to maybe bump down that rating to like a B-. But then I also feel like the punting got better in the back half of the year. I feel like Dante Atten really got better. But then we also saw some really kind of concerning like brain fart plays on those kickoffs or those punts. That kind of concerns me as well. I think I agree with B- across the board, John.
With the Navy game, in terms of like, do they punch it in right there, or do they take more time off the clock? That's a KC Keeler thing.
Yeah.
They're never going to tell us honestly who made the call there, but I would have to imagine again that is ultimately up to KC Keeler. We don't know for sure. Tyler Walker is not going to he's not going to undercut his boss and say, well, I mean, if it were up to me, we would have taken a knee there and taken more time off the clock. But old KC Keeler here wanted to punch it right in. As Kyle said, like this offense across 2 coaching regimes had really become putrid. There's no question that Tyler Walker injected more life into this offense this season. But yeah, I do think they ran into a really good ECU defense, but there were a couple times where like they needed answers and they didn't have them. So if we had Tyler at a B to B+, I would bump him down to a B-. Completely understand why they wanted to try to switch things up, but again, that trick play call at Army.
Yeah, that's what I want to bring up too.
Just again, KC Keeler said, hey, we'd like to have it back. Yeah. The play that almost became a real disaster against Tulane. Now, that thing almost worked. They had a caravan of blockers, but again, it didn't work out. I think he's a creative enough offensive mind. I couldn't put Tyler in C category, but I think I would bump him down to a B- because at the end of the day, this was a team that did control its own destiny. They needed just one win in their last 4 games, and the Navy game was winnable. That wasn't in their last 4, and the Army game was winnable. So defense coordinator, a B-. I think Brian Smith is a very good coach, and he's a very respected coach, but B-. I mean, I'm trying to weigh out talent versus scheme. You can very clearly see that like Temple's defensive backfield, even if they were fully healthy, is not on the same speed level as the North Texas or Tulane. That's only Brian Smith is partially responsible for that because he has an opportunity to recruit these players, but this was their first full recruiting cycle. If you wanted to give Brian Smith a C+ because of how they got it handed to him against ECU, against Tulane, against North Texas, if you said, well, I'm going to give him a C+, I could see that. Special teams coaching, I think I would put that back at like a B-. And overall, Keeler a B+. I'd put KC at a B-. They should have been a bowl team this year, and they were not. Do I think the program's headed in the right direction? I do, but they lost their last 4 games. Yep. And any way you slice it, and they had a chance to go to a bowl game. The Army game slipped away. The Navy game slipped away. You guys know this. So for that reason, I would put them at a B-. We did get another question in here later, and then we'll finish out with the recruiting profile one. Our friend Glenn, Al72 on Twitter. I'm a little late for the mailbag, but hopefully he gets in. I know Clayton Barnes has been kind of under the radar during the season, but after listening to him talk at the press conference yesterday, it seems like he is a very, very important part of Coach Keeler's group. Yeah, he's critically important. He's really Casey's right-hand guy. Yeah. I mean, he was his first hire. He was at Casey's introductory press conference. Clayton's as important as anybody on that staff. He's as important as Tyler Walker is. He's as important as Brian Smith is. he is really he is that. He is the general manager. And hopefully we'll get. I'd love to get Clayton on the pod at some point. We were trying to think of doing it this week, and we thought, I don't know if it makes much sense because I would have been asking him some of the same questions that we had yesterday. But his staff, his scouting staff, some of the players that they've turned up, they've done a pretty good job there. But Glenn, he is as important as anybody on the staff. I don't think I'm breaking any news there, but yeah, absolutely he is. I thought it would be fun to close out this week's episode with our own staff mailbag. It's a shame that Kyle's not here for this. Maybe we can ask him when he gets back. Ryan had to dip out. Colin, I'll ask you to maybe name a couple. So I thought, well, Kyle Pagan wrote about this for Crossing Broad yesterday and noticed that the recruiting graphics, which were really funny. Shout out to Temple football social team. They did a good job of rolling out the class yesterday. And they do this year after year after players sign. They did these fun facts. So give me your favorite recruiting graphic that you saw yesterday. So and you can't give me the Luke Sword one was really, really funny. And let's get to this one. Just in case you do not know what we're talking about, as the Temple football Twitter account was announcing these guys as they sign, they had these 3 fun facts. Some of them were very straightforward. Some of them were some guys were like, I wear this number, I play this position, my team is still in the state playoffs. The Luke Sword one, let's pull this one up because this was the one that caught Kyle's attention and people kind of latched onto it. This was pretty funny. Let me just scroll down here because they announced his signature earlier on in the day. Luke Sword, so he is the punter from Upper Moreland High School, right? It's an Upper Moreland Willow Grove guy. So he committed back in June. His 3 fun facts. I sneeze when I go into the sun. I can dunk. I can drink a Sprite without burping.
It's
hilarious.
3 incredible fun facts.
Yeah.
I can't decide which one's more crazy to
the
me.
I can dunk one proved to be the most boring one.
Yeah, and that's still impressive. I can't decide between which is more impressive to me or more crazy to me is he sneezes when he goes into the sun.
That's hilarious.
Or that he can drink a Sprite without burping, which I didn't know was possible because there's videos online.
Do people still drink? Is this like an internet thing?
It's like an internet thing where people will try to drink a Sprite without burping because the caffeination in it, burp it sounds like you're roaring.
Shows how out of touch I am. I can't remember last time I had Sprite.
It's impossible. I've tried it. It didn't go well. I picked out 2 for my favorites. My first one was Karon Spencer.
Yep.
And as a fellow Maryland kid, his 3 were he's an offensive tackle who loves the game just as much as firing up the grill on weekends. I think that's just an awesome analogy right there. This is what made it my favorite. As a Baltimore kid, I take pride in knowing how to pick Maryland crabs the right way.
Oh yeah, this is
I'll never
right
turn down
alley.
a good crab cake. As a fellow Maryland kid, I take very much pride in being able to pick crabs the right way. It's a family tradition to do it multiple times this summer. That made me feel personable with Karon Spencer. I've never met or never talked to him, but if we do meet, we'll be able to maybe chop it up over some crabs.
Well, as I said, shameless plug. Interviewed him a couple nights ago. You can find that interview on OwlScoop.com. You can listen to the entire interview. And he was awesome. Like I said, if you listen to him, I think his voice sounds eerily similar to Deion Dawkins. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be on Deion Dawkins' level. If he is, awesome for Temple, awesome for him. He'll be playing left tackle in the NFL in the future. But a really, really nice guy to talk to.
And he looks happy in the pictures, too, on Twitter. He looks very happy and excited to be at Temple. And then his third one, which I also liked, was no matter how busy life gets, I always make time for family dinner each night. And I always keep a few strawberry Uncrustables hidden in my backpack.
I know. His is probably it's Luke Swords and then it's Karon Spencer.
I loved those 3. And I also liked, let me find it. I like Antoine Rogers. It's a little more simple, but it's kind of shows him as literally any other high school kid. I like to play video games. I like to hoop, and he had a basketball emoji. I thought that was kind of funny. And then I watch college football all day.
Antoine Rogers, to again, we could go on and on about this class. They do have, again, 33 players who signed on Wednesday. Antoine Rogers, I asked Casey and Clayton about this. we will see how the trajectory of his career goes. Antoine Rogers is kind of like reminds me of a lot of so many players that Temple would get from this area, particularly South Jersey, who were, I mean, Syracuse knew about him. Fran offered him. He had a Syracuse offer. He's 6'5", 240. He's still kind of raw, but Salem High School is not a powerhouse program. Yes, it is where Jonathan Taylor played and before he went on to Wisconsin, but it's not super far from Philly, but not super close. It's not a blue blood high school program in South Jersey. But he had a really good year. He's 6'5", 240, a really, really good athlete. A player like him is the type of player that Temple used to develop in the past and thrive with. So I think he's an intriguing player. But yeah, his was pretty simple. Brody Norman from Mooresville High School. I enjoy photography. I'm a beginner guitarist. Beginner guitarist. Brody, maybe we'll play some guitar at some point. John Watkins, I am laid back. We know that. Ryan said that John was pretty shy when he interviewed him. But the Karon Spencer one, again, he was a joy to talk to. So you can listen to that interview at OwlScoop.com. We are going to have a lot more coverage of this class. Oh, Jaden Brown said he can do a one-hand push-up. So I'm scrolling through these. I'm scrolling through this again, and there. Oh, Brady Palmer's. I forgot. I can almost juggle, and I can make a mean omelet. I starred in my 5th grade play. You can tell, like, some guys were like, "Yeah, I'm going to share some stuff," and other guys were like, "I like football."
Yeah, I think it's a good mix.
Yeah,
I really like the I can almost juggle fun facts.
Yeah, like Lamar Best has had a hell of a story. Torn labrum, but he's like won high school state championship, all-state second team, went to St. Joe's regional. But he's all business. He's all business. So Cohen Logan, hopefully we're going to have a story on him. Petula Philp is going to be talking to him. Fishing is my favorite outdoor activity. I remember him talking to me about fishing. So this was fun. Nice touch there. So really appreciate Greg Paone being on the pod. Really appreciate Jeff Neiburg being on the pod this week. I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you're having a good holiday season, regardless of what you're celebrating out there. I hope you're getting to spend some time with friends and family. I hope you all stay happy and healthy, and we will talk to you next week.